You're listening to the No BS Bishop podcast. We're alive to love, and all other values are potential BS. Now here's your host, Bishop Randy Dean.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Bishop Randy Dean, and as you just heard, you have arrived at the podcast broadcast of the No BS Bishop. I'm alive to love. I believe lesser values than love are potentially BS. That's BS as you may define it, but for the purposes of what I discuss here, it's the Religion Incorporated's habit of BSing people with bait and switch, rather than just the sheer power of direct love. Bait and switch is happening in religious circles, and it's costing the United States of America Church. It's being a cancer on how we conduct ourselves, rather than the straightforward notions and power and the strength of love. And so today I want to talk to you about a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a soul generated by love. I'm gonna try to unpack that. Our souls generated by love. Then I'm saying, rather than generated by BS, let's have souls generated by love. So we'll get to Dr. King's quote in a minute. But to get me started and to help you understand why I'm here and doing what I do in this short 30 minutes of unpacking the glories, the power, the majesty, the mountain climb, and the pilgrimage of love, I want to be able to clear the path a little bit by saying the Lord's Prayer with you to start with. And then I want to lead you in Love's Creed, a little something that I've written. Okay? If you know the Lord's Prayer, come on along and join me. If you don't know the Lord's Prayer, just listen in, tune into it one more time. Maybe you've never heard it, maybe you've heard it and you've never really dialed in on it to see if it's effective or applicable to yourself. Listen in when I pray it, because these are the words of Jesus Christ, who I believe to be God's Son, and in the wisdom of Jesus, he taught us words to pray. So, if you've never really contemplated it, do it with me. Just join me in the contemplative mood of the Lord's Prayer. All right? And if you do know it, please join me in these wise heavenly words that Jesus taught us to pray when he said, "Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen." And thank you, Jesus, for wisdom in how to pray, not to demonstrate some flowery group of words for the sake of an audience, but to say the simplicity of that paragraph before our glorious, loving God. All right, now I want to share with you Love's Creed. I'm going to read it in total, then I'm going to come back and ask you to repeat after me, once again, words that I wrote many years ago that just keep me solidly walking the right way. It's not easy, but it is simple in the context of it. Just do these things, and it'll keep you moving the right way. All right? Here's Love's Creed, and then I'll ask you to repeat after me. I'm alive to love. I am not on this earth for hate. I'm alive for love. I'm not breathing, eating, and sleeping to regain energy for causing pain. I am alive with plans, dreams, and designs locked into anything and everything that is love. I am unavailable for anything less than love. All right. Now, I'm going to give it to you in short bursts. Repeat after me. See if these words hang in somewhere in your inner world and in your inner dialogue. I hope they do, okay? Here we go. Repeat after me. I'm alive to love. I am not on this earth for hate. I'm alive for love. I'm not breathing, eating, and sleeping to regain energy, for causing pain. I am alive with plans, dreams, and designs, locked into anything and everything. That is love. I am unavailable for anything less than love. All right. Well, there you have it. If you'd like a copy of that, send me an email at randydeanministries@gmail.com. Randy Dean Ministries, all one word, all lowercase, at Gmail. I'd be delighted to send you a copy of that, and there'll be no bait and switch. There'll be no BS attached to your request and my response. All right, I told you at the start I want to talk to you about a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The weekend that I'll be publishing this podcast and broadcast leads up to Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I've been a lifelong reader and fan of Dr. King. I discovered him in the early to mid 60s. As a kid growing up on north side of Milwaukee, I fell in love with what I felt. Now, I didn't understand everything. You have to understand, as a white kid growing up in a multiracial area in North Milwaukee, and it was increasingly becoming less and less white and more people of color around me, and the tensions were astronomical. The tensions were brutal and bitter. I didn't understand it all. I knew my family had Southern roots, and as such, they had a very narrow view of people of color. And all I knew as a kid in the early to mid 60s, I was just a young teenager. All I knew was to just borrow their values, even though I wasn't comfortable with them, because my friends were all girls and guys of African American heritage, and so here I was, this white kid. My mom's Native American, but I looked very much like my dad, an Irishman, and so my connections and my friendships were pretty diverse at the time. So I loved my friends. I loved them dearly, and they loved me. I had a great little circle of friends around me. But the racial tensions were scaring me, because somehow I thought, man, something's wrong with me. I don't understand something here that is going on. And I just stumbled onto Dr. King's writings in our school library. And so I just, I went to the file system. We didn't have computers or anything digital to find writings or books. It was hardcore paperback and hardcover books. So I did my research in the library, asked the librarian to help me, and I just found his works and his writings were majestic. His vocabulary, his way of speaking and writing, it enthralled me. It drew me in, and it caused me to think more deeply than most kids think at that stage in their life. And for me, his words resonated on some level that it took me all the rest of my life to truly and genuinely embrace and unpack. But here's a quote from Dr. King that I'm using for today. And my theme for today is his quote, "A soul generated by love." Let's think about that just before I give you the rest of that quote. Let's think and consider having a soul generated, energized, lit up by love. But here's the rest of his quote. If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. That is a bulldozer through a lot of our emotional wreckage, isn't it? If you want to be great, if you want to be important, if you want to be a person of influence, that's great, that's awesome. All you need is a heart full of grace and your soul generated by love. I think Dr. King's whole life is about that last sentence, a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. It's why he found himself at odds with people whose souls were not generated by love. They met each other head on. There was bloody conflict. And make no mistake about it, folks, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. So people that were not loving were living in fear, and they were living in fear of minorities. They were living in fear of Dr. King. And Dr. King understood that the only way you challenge fear is not by fighting back, but by loving back. And so that's where I found his writings and his inspiration, his speeches. They just completely lit up my little teenage boy mind and heart, even though I did not always understand what it was he was talking about. I came to understand it truly, and I've come to quote him, 10,000 times throughout my life. And I know there are suspicions that swirl around his life and living, and there are ideas that he was not the perfect man. And I've never tried to kid myself that he was in any way a perfect human being. I never tried to convince myself that he was anything more or less than me. But when I discovered the works and the writings of Dr. King in it was about 1966. I was a junior high kid. I was reaching for something to help me understand the tensions that I lived in on the north side of Milwaukee. I saw Dr. King on little news blurbs, which are little TV antenna with rabbit ears, the black and white TV in our little apartment. I saw him and I heard him, and I don't know, but by the grace of God, I just didn't hear the criticisms through the news. I just heard this mighty voice that was preaching and teaching things that I was hungry for. And so what I discovered was, I want to know what makes this man tick. So to that end, I was, like I said, reaching through our library to find out more and more about Dr. King. So what I discovered was some of his writings and books. One was called Strength to Love. Guess why that's still carrying on in my mind. Another one, an article and a book that he wrote, Why We Can't Wait. And really the most legendary book of all is it is The Letter from a Birmingham Jail. I'm telling you, just Google those phrases and you'll get a slice of his wisdom. Strength to Love, Why We Can't Wait, and the legendary Letter from a Birmingham Jail. Phenomenal wisdom. And make no mistake about it, I did not completely grasp his wisdom, but I will tell you, I did grasp his energy, his soul. And you know why? Because he had a soul generated by love. All right, so this whole podcast is not about Dr. King, though it could be. This is about that phrase, all you need is a soul generated by love. Sustaining compassion and kindness, that's part of what love does. Sustaining patience, sustaining an unbreakable will to think only of the best of others. And yes, to think of yourself as in need of those best things. But no, don't put yourself above others to conquer others. You see, one of the great mistakes we make when we are not loving is we consider our life a competition with others. That somehow we have to win arguments, we have to conquer others, we have to convince them that they're bad, evil, sick, and wrong, and we have to convince ourselves that only I carry the real weight of truth. And that creates this animosity it's low level by and large. It gets high and mighty, but most of us carry that kind of animosity on a low grade radiation going on inside of us. It's not something we always can identify. But when we have a soul generated by love, when our souls have the, if you will, the nuclear energy, the electricity, the radiance of love working in there. We know how to, though irritated, though struggling, though feeling the strife, we know how to shut up. We know how to pause. We know how to take a deep breath in the moment of feeling the competition. We know how, if our soul is generated by love, we know how to listen and consider that perhaps the other person has said something I'm not paying attention to. And then even if that other person has said what we know they've said, a soul generated by love doesn't thump their chest and say, "See, I told you so. You're wrong, and I'm right." A soul generated by love does not behave in that kind of crippling, accusatory, embattled way of looking at people. A soul generated by love knows that if I'm ever to live a life of greatness, as Dr. King said, then I'm going to need to move away from the goal of greatness and move toward the goal of love. The goal of being carried by grace. Love and tolerance is our code, is what the big book of AA says. Love and tolerance is our code. In other words, it's the basis upon which we seek to live in harmony with the world around us and with ourselves first. Love and tolerance. Dr. King put it in the context that love, well, in this case, to blend the two ideas together, AA and civil rights movement, tolerance. To know that we may never, in any given time, we may never completely understand each other. We may never. But yet, if we're to ever have understanding at any level, we'll have to know how to walk in some form of tolerance, some form of ending the verbal grenade lobbing across the no man's land, the demilitarized zone. To generate from our mind and our heart a tolerance that is based in love. The word tolerance is not a bad word. Well, in fact, I don't think the creators of AA and the Big Book would have used the word tolerance if it was a potentially negative word. It's really a profound word based in love. If you look at tolerance in an engineering setting, tolerance is what engineers put into building a skyscraper, for instance. A skyscraper is this gigantic, multiple millions of tons of steel and concrete and a variety of other ingredients that is like a giant sail in these formidable winds. So that building has to have tolerance levels. That building has to have footings that reach way down into whatever ground is beneath it. And even at that, it can't be stiff. It can't be unbending. There's got to be some, whether you like it or not, a skyscraper has some wobble allowance to it because tolerance gives it the opportunity to bend but not break. I heard somebody say one time, "Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken." I think that's what love will do for you. You'll learn flexibility to a fault. And when you are blessed to be flexible, you won't be broken. You'll be like that skyscraper standing up tall and strong in a gale-force wind. Tolerance can also, in an engineering setting, be seen in bridges. If, in a simplistic view of a bridge, we think of a bridge as this utterly stationary, hardcore, doesn't budge, doesn't give, doesn't flow back and forth thing that crosses rivers or other places. But I promise you, if we were to look at the engineering factors of any bridge, that bridge has some tolerances built into it. It will bend but not break. I've stood on a few bridges just looking at a river below me, and And when a truck drove by, you can feel that bridge bounce just a little bit. And that's what tolerance does. Tolerance bounces rather than breaks. Now, I'm telling you all of that to consider your own mental, emotional, and community mindset, to learn love and tolerance, to have a soul generated by love, to understand that, no, I don't want trucks pounding on my bridge all day long, because that's annoying and potentially destructive. But when they do cross, I need to be tolerant and bounce a bit. I'm suggesting that we are in need here in the United States of America to know what it looks like to bounce just a little bit without breaking, to bend and not break, to give others the opportunity to have their own ideas without damning them for having an idea that's different than us. I just believe that we can make mistakes and still be tolerant. We can say the wrong thing and still love. But it's going to require the capacity of each of us individually to end the fight. Another reference from the book of AAA, the big book. We ceased fighting anybody and everything and anybody, which doesn't mean I don't have standards and doesn't mean I don't have an opinion. It just means I don't live with this constant soul generated by fight. Dr. King was famous for saying, when it comes to civil rights, we cannot afford to make the white population our enemy. Our goal is to make people of a different race than us, make them our friends, not our enemies. To win a soul, he said, was a double victory, because then we will have fought for what we believe to be true and win our enemies by love. I just simply believe that's what Jesus taught when he said, love your enemies. Do good to those that treat you despitefully. These are lessons that we're in great need of studying. Wait. Maybe somebody should have a broadcast where we talk about the strength of a soul generated by love. Maybe we should have a guy carrying on for the better part of 7 years plus on a radio broadcast, now a podcast, talking about here are the principles. How are we going to survive as a human race without destroying others with whom we disagree? Well, that's going to be the heavy lifting, the strength of the pilgrimage of love. To have a soul generated by love. To refuse to live a life with the desire to make anybody my enemy. Oh, to be certain, others may desire to be our enemies. All right, go right ahead. Knock yourself out. But you're going to leave me out of that dance of creating enmity between us, because I won't join you in that dance. You can leave me out. Well, I'm going to bring this in for a landing here, but I just want you to understand that I'm a great fan of, and I honor and respect Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I do not expect you to be as equally enthused about him as I am, but I do expect that if you listen to me at all, you know that it's important that we love one another enough to listen to opinions that are different than our own. Because I'm alive to love. I'm not on this earth for hate. All right, let me give you some tools to be alive to love. And one is learning how to breathe. We live in tumultuous and tense times, and knowing how to breathe well can lead us to live well. On the count of 3, I want you to take a good, healthy inhale of air and hold it against your belly down to your diaphragm for just a few seconds. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale love, exhale fear. Remember what I said earlier. The opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. The little book of the epistles of John in the New Testament says perfect out fear. So when you see people acting hateful, it's because they're fearful. Don't join the fear-mongering. So that's one thing I want you to learn to do. The next thing I want you to learn how to do is to say those words. Yeah, I know. They're hard. But someday you're going to lose somebody in your life, and you're going to wish you had them back from perhaps the jaws of death, where you could say again, I love you. So I want you to join me saying those three holy, magical, charmed words. Look somebody in the eye. Give them your attention and say, I love you. Remember, the greatest mistake we make in life is thinking we still got time. Oh, don't worry about it. We got time. We can keep loving. We'll catch you on the backside. No, we don't have that guarantee, folks. It's really vital to know that the biggest mistake we make is thinking we have time. Be present. Be kind. Love more. Love now. Ugh. Not later. Don't procrastinate. Put it off. Mother Teresa said one time, today go into the world and love the people you meet. Let your presence light new light in the hearts of others. Yeah, that's it. Today. Not tomorrow. Not another time. But today. Make it your goal to go into the world and to love the people you meet. And let your presence light new light in the hearts of others. Thomas Merton said, love is the only answer. I'm going to leave it there. There's more to his quote than that, but he said, love is the only answer. Hans Urs von Balthasar said, only love is credible. Theologians don't have all the credibility. Children have that credibility when they are full of love. We need to learn from children how to love deeply and even recklessly. And I'm Randy Dean, and I'm here to tell you, let's learn how to rise and shine in a dark, strife-driven world. Rise and shine with the light of love. Do something beautiful. Folks, listen. Ugly is getting done to death. It is time for us people of the beauty of love to draw a deep breath, look people in the eye and say, I love you, and be determined to fill the world of ugly with something of beauty. An open door and a smile, a greeting, tip your hat, stand up when somebody enters the room and greet them. Make sure that when you see somebody in duress, you just tap them on the shoulder and say, are you okay? Make sure that when somebody looks at you with a look of, I need help, that you say, even if they don't say, I need help, just ask them, are you okay? Do you need anything? Can I help you? That's something beautiful. Even if they say, no, there's nothing you can do for me. I guarantee you, you're just asking, do you need anything? Can I help you? They're going to say, well, no, I don't need anything, but thank you for asking. I see this almost every day of my life. Just checking in with somebody, making sure your pulse is okay. All right, I got to go. I'm Bishop Randy Dean, and it is my sheer delight and joy to bring this podcast and broadcast to you every week. It is a joy because I believe in the power of love. God bless y'all, and happy trails.
Thanks for listening to the No BS Bishop podcast. If you like the show, leave a comment on it. Or, even better, share it with your friends. And we'll see you on the next one.